Right now, Americans sitting around the dinner table might be asking themselves, well, what exactly is Title 42? And why should they care? Well, I'll tell you who is not wondering what Title 42 is, and that is the thousands of migrants with their eyes staring in the direction of our southern border. The migrants know all about Title 42. They know the fine print of this U.S. policy. On July 1st, 1944, Title 42 was enacted as part of the Public Health Service Act. The law grants federal authorities the power to deny entry to people and products into the country with a specific intent to limit the spread of contagious diseases. Prior to the 1944 law, way back in 1893, during a cholera epidemic, Congress approved a similar law. It was called the National Quarantine Act. That 1893 act was used in 1929 to bar people coming from China and the Philippines during a meningitis outbreak. That 1893 National Quarantine Act was the precursor to the 1944 law, Title 42. So what happened in 1944, provoking the enactment of Title 42? Well, officials are ramping up their response to World War II and their concerns about the spread of malaria and tuberculosis by soldiers returning home from far-reaching corners of the world. Fast forward to March 2020. That is when COVID struck our nation with a vengeance. And that is when President Trump invoked the authority under Title 42 to expel people at the border for national health risk reasons. When President Biden took office, he continued to invoke Title 42 to protect the nation. Estimates show that since March 2020, immigration officials have used the health order more than 2.4 million times to expel migrants. All this changes on May 11th. That's when President Biden will lift Title 42. So what does the end of Title 42 mean to those fighting to keep our communities safe? Cochise County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Dannels joins me. He's also the Border Security Chair of the National Sheriff's Association. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Greta. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Sir, what do you expect is going to happen on May 11th to your community when Title 42 is lifted?
Well, Greta, let me say this, and we just had a brief about an hour or so ago with DHS. First brief we've had about Title 42. What we see happening is more money to NGOs, the national government organizations that help the humanitarian side of the migrants coming across the border. What I did not hear is support for communities, for sheriff's offices. To give you an example, Greta, last year it cost my county just on detention was $4.3 million in Cochise County. What we're not seeing is that collective partnership here in our counties. The sheriff in Yuma brought up some concerns at this meeting. Again, this is no surprise Title 42 is going away, but what is a surprise, there are no defined border security answers, funding, or support for the border communities that have been left alone. And one last thing, I just saw this 2 days ago. They're anticipating, Greta, from post 42 going away, May 11th, till June, 280 to 300,000 people extra on top of this border that are going to be facing my community and many others.
What are you going to do?
Greta, we can only do what we can do. We have limited resources. We have a very proactive border security plan that we've been working on for the last 2 years on the uptick under this administration. So we're going to continue to do everything we can do with limited resources, limited funding in a rural county. The absent and avoidance by this administration intellectually is upsetting, it's frustrating, and it's demoralizing because this is the federal government's border, not Cochise County's.
Was it different under the prior administration? I mean, because people have been coming across the border for a long time, for decades, but was it different in the prior administration?
Greta, was 100% different in the fact that we had a president and a White House that engaged with community sheriffs, police chiefs, governors. We knew exactly where the president was going. We shared a collective message. We shared collective plans. Right now, we're not asking, Sheriff, what do you think? What we're hearing is this is what we're going to do, like you narrated at the beginning of this show. So we don't have a partnership. No matter what Secretary Mayorkas tells the American people, we do not have a partnership. We don't have effective management on this border or security on this border. It is a crisis waiting to be compounded by Title 42. Again, no secret it's going away, but it is a secret on how we're going to handle it.
You know, my own experience as a reporter and as a practicing lawyer before is that if you go down and you take a look at something, you get a better idea of the magnitude of the problem. We were just in the staging ground in Colombia for the people who are going to begin the walk through the Darien Gap and ultimately to U.S. border. Are government officials, Republicans, Democrats, I mean, are they coming down and looking so that they see and understand what you're dealing with?
Greta, we get a small percentage. We just had a bipartisan group visit us here about 2 weeks ago. We get some Republican groups coming down here. I don't see a lot of Democratic groups coming down here. Long answer to a short answer to you, no, we don't. Most people in Congress had no clue what goes on this border. They're 2,000 miles away. They're making decisions based on political ideologies instead of reality of what this border is all about. Or they go to El Paso, which is one of the safest spots, and says, here we go, we're here, we've been to the border, everything's fine. Come to a rural southwest border.
Why do you think this? I mean, why do you think this problem has been allowed to sort of grow?
I will say this, Greta, this is my opinion on this. We had President Trump that was very strong on border security. He ran on that, he acted on that, and he had one of the safest borders. I will credit him on that. Opposite of that, we have President Biden, who has done everything opposite of President Trump, almost in a vengeance type mode. So you have two opposite, polarized presidents, and in the middle are border communities, states, and United States that is suffering, whether it be drug overdoses and poisonings, whether it be human trafficking, pursuits. The quality of life I've seen in my county under this last 2 years is incredibly sad. I mean, every night, every day, pursuits, stolen vehicles, you name it, we're encountering it, and nobody is down here saying, Sheriff, let us help you. I get very little support from the federal government.
Sheriff Mark Daniels, thank you, sir. And of course, we'll continue to follow this as we have here at Newsmax, and especially during this hour. You know, we're aware of the fact that this is a crisis, not just for you, but the nation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta. Thanks for having me.